Ricky, it seems dangerous. Well,
Morning, Rabbi.
touching Ricky is dangerous.
Good morning. Today's daf is daf Peches, page 88. We were up to the Mishnah on Pei Zayin Amud Beis. So the Mishnah is talking about different types of measuring utensils that were in the Beis Hamikdash. And so now the Mishnah goes on to discuss the measuring utensils for liquids. Sheva midol shalach hayu b'mikdash. As we'll see in the Gemara, there was a tradition, there was a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, that there were 7 different measuring cups for liquids in the Beis Hamikdash. As we've seen many times in the Masechta, when you have a utensil for liquids, so then when liquids are put into it, they become consecrated, they become holy with Kedushat HaGuf. And if a solid would be put into a liquid vessel, it does not become holy with Kedushat HaGuf. Only a liquid in a liquid vessel becomes holy with intrinsic holiness.
And vice versa, liquid into a dry?
Correct. So Sheva Mido Shalach Hayu B'Mikdash. There were 7 different measurements or measuring utensils. Welcome, Lior. In the temple, in the Beis Hamikdash for liquids. And these were the different sizes. Hin, that was the largest. Then there was a measuring cup that could hold chatzi hin, half a hin. Then there was another measuring cup of shlishis hin, of a third of a hin. Then there was a measuring cup of revi'as hin, of a quarter of a hin. Then there was a measuring cup of a log. And there was another measuring cup of chatzi log, we're up to 6. And finally there was a measuring cup of revi'as log, a quarter of a log. So that's all 7. Hin, half a hin, third a hin, and quarter of a hin. Log, half a log, and a quarter of a log. However, this is divrei. This is Rabbi Tzadok Omer. Rabbi Tzadok disagrees. He says no, there weren't 7 different measuring cups. There was one measuring cup of a hin, and shnasus hayu behin. And this measuring cup of the hin had different etchings in it. It had one line for a quarter, another line further up, that was a half hin, another line further up was a full hin. Ad kan lapar, in other words, till here would be the amount that you wine or oil to accompany a bull. Ad kan la'ayil, till here was the amount that you needed to accompany a ram. And ad kan lakeves, until here was the amount that you needed to accompany a sheep. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, Lo haya sham hin. The Beis Hamikdash didn't have a vessel to hold a hin, because v'chima haya hin mishamish. There was no need for a hin. It was only in making the shemen hamishcha, making the anointing oil originally, and Moshe Rabbeinu needed a hin. It says v'shemen zayis hin, but never in regular karbanos mincha. There's no need for such a large quantity of oil. So therefore, there was no measuring cup of hin in the Beis Hamikdash. That's the view of Rabbi Shimon.
it had to be very exact, right? Rabbi, to the all these measurements of oil and whatever they mix.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And we'll see what that means. Says the Mishnah further, but if we say that you have to have 7 measuring cups, and Reb Shimon doesn't have the hin measuring cups, how does he get a 7th? Or a log and a half. Shabaya moded leminchas kohen gadol, and he would use the log and a half for the minchas kohen gadol. In other words, log umechza baboker, because half of it was brought in the morning. So the mincha of the kohen gadol needed 3 log of oil. So a log and a half of oil was for the minchas chavitin that accompanied the karban tamid of the morning. And log umechza bein arba'im, and a log and a half for the minchas chavitin that would accompany the karban tamid of the evening. No, there was a measuring cup of log and a half. One cup that held in it a log and a half.
And what do you do? But it sounds like from the earlier part, the kavesh, the par, and the aisle, they used a different size, right? That's what we said. That how would he?
So he either agrees with the Tanakama that there was a separate measuring cup of just hin. I'm sorry, just chatzi hin, just lishis hin, and just revius hin.
Oh, you're just saying there's not a one hin cup.
He's saying that there is instead of a one hin cup, there is a cup of a log and a half.
He's just arguing that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now the Brisa again discusses this issue of which types of measuring cups did we have in the Beis Hamikdash. Tan Rabbanan, it was taught in a Brisa. Sheva midos shalach hayu b'mikdash. There were 7 different measuring cups for liquids in the Beis Hamikdash. So here it's listed not from the biggest to smallest, but from the smallest to biggest. Revius log, a quarter of a log. Chatzi log, and a half a log. And then there was a measuring cup of a log. So that's 3. Then there was a measuring cup for a revius hin, for a quarter of a hin. Then there was a measuring cup for shlishis hin, for a third of a hin. Then there was a measuring cup for chatzi hin, for half a hin, which is the amount of oil needed for a bowl. And then there was a measuring cup of a hin. Give Rabbi Yehuda's review of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir agrees, but he just lists it in the other way. It was hin, chatzi hin, shlishis hin, revius hin, log, chatzi log, and revius log. So the Gemara's going to have to explain what's the argument. Is that really an argument? If you list from biggest to smallest and someone else lists from smallest to biggest, what's the difference? We'll see. Rabbi Shimon says, Lo yasham hin, the same way we had in our Mishnah. There was no measuring cup the size of a hin. In the normal service of the Beis Hamikdash, of the offering of bulls and sheep and rams, there is no hin amount of liquid that needs to accompany them. Okay? So now, according to Rabbi Shimon, if you don't have a hin, es mi avitachtav. So what am I going to take in place of the hin to get to 7? Answers the Bryce the same answer the Mishnah had. According to Rabbi Shimon, elamidi yisera shalogu mechza yisasham. There was a measuring cup that would hold a log and a half. Why a log and a half? Because the minchas chavitin had 3 lugin of oil. Shabaya model l'chavita kohen gadol. But the minchas chavitin gets divided. Half of it is brought in the morning and half is brought in the evening. So a log and a half in the morning and a log and a half in the evening. So they had a special measuring cup for a log and a half. Logu mechza b'boker, the log and a half for the morning, and logu mechza ben arba'in. Says the Brisa some more context. Amru lo, the sages said to Rabbi Shimon, I understand. We all agree, both Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Chatzi log ha'isasham, there was a measuring cup of half a log. So just use it 3 times. If you use 3 halves a log, three halves of a log, you get to a log and a half. So why do you have to have a separate measuring cup of a log and a half? Amrulo, chatzi log ha'isasham. You had a measuring cup of half a log. After the shar b'chatzi log. If you want to measure out the oil of the minchas chavitin and divide it from 3 lugin into a log and a half in the morning and a log and a half in the evening, so just use the half log measuring cup and take 3 scoopfuls in the morning. That would be a log and a half of the morning. Right. And then take the half log measuring cup and make 3 scoopfuls in the evening. That'll be a log and a half in the evening. Why do you have to have a separate cup that holds a log and a half? Amalahem, so he said to them 1 second. According to this logic, you can use the same measuring cup multiple times for multiple scoops. So even according to you, chatzi log v'log lo yaseh. So then there's no need to have a half log measuring cup. There's no need to have a full log measuring cup. Because revius haisasham, you have a quarter of a log measuring cup. Just use the revius measuring cup 4 times. You'll get to a log. Use it twice, you'll get to half a log. Ella, so why didn't we do that? Apparently, this is the rule that was in the Beis Hamikdash. A utensil that's used for one measuring, and mishamish midacheres can't be used for another measuring. So if it's for a quarter of a log, you can't use it 4 times in order to get a log. You use it for those things that need a quarter of a log. So that's why we couldn't have a measuring cup of just use the measuring cup of half a log 3 times to get to a log and a half. Because if we need a log and a half, we need to have a measuring cup for exactly a log and a half.
By the way, all those measurement cups are sitting on a shelf in the basement of Vatican, Rabbi. I know you don't believe me.
It just wants to remind you, in case you forgot.
And there, right there. You know, we could check it out. They open up the door.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll get it back someday.
I hope so.
We'll certainly get the Beis Hamikdash back, but maybe we'll find these archaeological treasures, B'ezrat Hashem, these historical treasures. So the Gemara said again that there were 7 different measuring utensils, and the Brisa had an argument. Rabbi Yehuda lists them from smallest to biggest, and Rabbi Meir lists them from biggest to smallest. So the Gemara asks, what's that argument? Ma'ika bein Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. What's the halachic difference between the view of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda? What's the halachic difference, whether you list it from smallest to biggest or from biggest to smallest? So 2 proposals. Proposal number 1. Amar Rabbi Yochanan beirutze midos ika beinayu. Rabbi Yochanan says the difference between them is beirutze midos. Now, there are different explanations of what beirutze midos means. One explanation is that when you fill something up, that's to the very top, you have a little bit that's just over the edges of the cup.
There's a principle, like when water can go over the top.
It's just on the very
Tension,
top.
the water, the
It's a little bit over the walls of the cup, just a thin layer on the very top. That's one explanation. Another explanation of beirutze is that if it were to spill over and run against the walls on the outside, would that also consecrate it? Do we say that what's holy is the inside, and that the oil and the wine have to be put inside the cup to become consecrated? Do we say that the outside of the cup, the beirutze midos, were to spill along the walls of the cup, the outside of the cup would also consecrate it?
Anyhow, that's how we have to say Kaddish with the wine. It has to overflow, or all the way on the top.
The wine of siman bracha, sign of
Right.
blessing. So that could be the argument. The one who's listing maybe the first opinion, Rabbi Yehuda. First he says the smallest one, 1/4 of a log, and he said 1/2 a log, so he's going from smaller to bigger. Because he holds that beirutze also becomes holy.
You may think the water that's sticking above you couldn't use.
Right? Not water, we're talking about wine and oil. Yeah, but the wine and oil that's above doesn't become holy. That's the point. It does become holy. Or that the wine and oil that spill over and run along the wall of the cup, that also is enough to consecrate them.
But how does saying the order of these things prove that? Why don't they just say that?
Mm-hmm. No, we'll see it in a second. The reason why they don't say it is because it's more exciting when it's not so clear. And we'll see how by saying this order leads us to that conclusion. Okay, so he holds beirutze midos that the spillovers would also become holy, and therefore like this. Urevius yayev le Rachman le Moshe. First Hashem gave him a measure. First Hashem gave to Moshe a measuring cup of only a revius. V'amar le, then he said to him, Sha'er, figure out the other measuring cups from this one. So I'm giving you a measuring cup of 1/4. Okay, so now do 2 quarters to get to 1/2. And then do 4 quarters to get to a full. And then, etc. So since it's always by filling it up and spilling over, then filling up and spilling over, then together it'll be a full. Right? You're going to fill up and spill over because you don't want to shortchange hekdesh. You have to make sure hekdesh is a little bit bigger. So you fill it up to spill over. Hashem gives him a 1/4 cup. And now he has to fill it up to spill over. And then it'll fill up to spill over. So therefore, if it's spilling over, you see that the top, the stuff that's, over the top became holy, or you see that the stuff that spilled over to the sides became holy. So that's what's going on. Revius Yoav leRachman leMoshe, the compassionate one, the Torah gave to Moshe an initial measuring cup of only a revius. And then Hashem tells him, Sha'er, from this measure the others, from this calculate the others. Therefore, Dekailu Beritzin. So you're filling up, a 1/4 cup, and you're filling another time a 1/4 cup. If you're filling it up twice to get to a half, that means you're spilling over. That means that what's on top or what spills over onto the sides becomes holy. But according to the view of Rabbi Meir, who lists the measuring cups from biggest to smallest, from hin, then to half hin, then to quarter hin, then to from half hin to third hin, then to quarter hin. According to him, who measures from bigger to smaller. So he holds that in a holy vessel, the thing that's on top, or the thing that's spilling over, does not become holy. So how does he see that from this way of listing it? Hin Yoav le'Rachman Moshe. Hashem first told Moshe the biggest cup, hin, and then Amar Lei said from the bigger cup, Sha'er Baha, calculate from this to smaller cups. To Karnafki Beirutzin, and therefore you're not going to have the overflow, right? Because if you're going to say we're talking about the overflow on the very top, so when you have a big cup and you fill up a big cup, then you pour it to a smaller cup, you have to pour slowly. Since you have to pour slowly, you're not going to have an overflow. And also, if you say that what we mean by Beirutzin, we mean that the part that spills over along the sides. Again, when you have a bigger cup and you go into a smaller cup, you pour precisely. There is no spillovers. That means that the spillover did not become holy. So that's answer number one. So answer number one, what the argument is the argument about overflows. Do overflows in holy vessels become holy? If you list from smaller to bigger, you're saying overflows also became holy. If you also become holy, if you list from bigger to smaller, you're saying overflows do not become holy. Abaya said no. Maybe everybody agrees. You can either say that the overflow does become holy, it doesn't become holy. It doesn't impact this argument.
Which one is halacha? Rabbi, what's your opinion?
Which one's the halacha? I don't know yet. I have to look it up.
It's the same thing. I don't understand why.
There's a big difference.
If you change the figure, all of a sudden from holy becomes unholy or something.
There was a hin, according to the says here.
It's the same liquid in that.
One hin, one half hin,
Right.
third hin, whatever.
Yeah, one second. Abaya says the Kuliyama Berutze Amidos Ikonim Niskachu Kamil Lo Niskachu. It could be that they all agree that when you fill up a vessel, let's say you have a quarter vessel and you fill it up to the very, very top, so there's a little bit of an overflow.
Right.
But that overflow, that little bit on the top also becomes holy. So what's the argument? Here the argument is, what is the definition of the term maleim? Full. The Torah says, Shneim maleim solas. Two of the vessels were filled with solas. So, the one who lists them from the bigger to the smaller. So he holds, Kosava, he holds, when the Torah says maleim, it means exactly. Shelo yachsav v'lo yosir. You can't have a little bit less, you can't have a little bit more. It has to be full exactly. But the one who lists from smaller to bigger, he says that the word maleim means shelo yachsar. Can't be less than what it's supposed to be. Aval yosir, but if it's a little bit more, still maleim, karina beit. It's still called maleim, because if you're going from smaller to bigger, it's the same. As we said before, if you're going from smaller to bigger, that means Hashem first started with a small cup. And then he said, okay, this is a quarter. Now do two of these, you'll get to half. So if I have a small cup of a quarter and I need to get to half, I'm not going to fill the quarter and not fill it fully. I'm going to fill it fully, because I fill it a little bit more than what it is, because I want to make sure I don't give hektish less. So that means that full too much is still okay. It's just full too little that wouldn't be okay. So he would hold Malay means Shelo Yachzer v'Shelo Yosir Madam Matul Matul. The one who's going from smaller to bigger, Malay means full Shelo Yachzer, not less, but it could be bigger. Avo Yosir, but if you do a little bit more than the amount, Malay and Krina, but it's still considered full.
Who would say you could do less? How can you possibly do less? What coin do I buy? What's the argument?
Nobody says you could do less.
What's
the
the
question
value?
is, could you do more, or is doing more also a problem?
How's it different than the first way we explained the argument?
The first way was about spillovers.
I thought, so it's not about whether it goes over, it's just somehow higher.
No, the first one was where it spilled over. Here is in general. Whenever the Torah says something is good morning. Whenever the Torah says something is malayim, is it full? Does it mean exactly with no more? Or it means, could be more, but exactly, but no less. All right, so now Rabbi Shimon. Amar, we learned in both the Brayso and the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon says, Lo yasham hin. There was no measuring cup of a hin, because there was no use of a hin in the Beis HaMikdash. Asks the Gemara, so Shapir Kamlu Rabbi Shimon Rabbanan. That seems like a good argument. Why would we have a hin measuring cup when there's no carbon that gets accompanied with a hin of oil or a hin of wine? Rabbanan will tell you, no, have a hin David Moshe L'Shem Mishcha. There was the hin initially because Moshe needed a hin when he had to first make the first batch of Shemen HaMishcha. Which, as it says, the Shemen Zayis hin, olive oil of a hin. So Mar Sava, Rabbi Shimon holds, given the Doros Lavitzarach, since we didn't need it in the future generations. Lefisha, Hudavd, it was done when the Mishkan was made temporarily, Vignas, and then it was put aside. Idach, and the other opinion is, came from the Hava, once we needed it, so we kept using it, even though we didn't need it in the future. Going back again to the Mishnah and the Brisa, we learned. They asked Rabbi Shimon, so what should we bring in place of the hin, if you don't have a hin? So Gemara asks, Lo sagid lo mayo? So you have to have another thing? So Gemara says exactly. Kedam Ravina. So Ravina said, Gmir, we have a tradition. Shtei smichos betzibur. There are two karbanos tzibur that need to have leaning on them. Hachanami also here, in regards to the measuring cups, Gmir, we have a tradition. Sheva midos shalach hayu b'mikdash. There were 7 liquid measuring cups in the Beis HaMikdash. So that's why if Rabbi Shimon doesn't have a hin, he has to have something else. That's why he had a log and a half. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Tzadok, Omer. Now going back to the Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Tzadok says, no, it wasn't 7 measuring cups. It was 1 measuring cup of a hin. And Shnasa, Sayu Bahin. There were lines along that hin. This is the amount for a bull. This is the amount for a ram. This is the amount for a sheep. So well, Leslie Shevamidas, he doesn't have this tradition of 7 measuring cups. Leslie, he doesn't have it. I can tell you, my Shevamidos, what does he think is the meaning of 7 measuring cups? Not 7 measuring cups, but 7 measuring amounts. 4 of them are all along 1 cup. Sheva mididos, 7 measurements. 4 of them can be on 1 cup. Okay. All right, the uses of all these different measuring cups. Why did they need a measuring cup of a quarter of a log? The answer is Revi'as Mayim Mitzorah. They would use it to measure a quarter of a log of water for the purification of the Mitzorah. Revi'as Shemen, and they'd use it to measure a quarter of a log of oil, L'Nazir, for the loaves that the Nazir brings. Chatzi log mayim mishamish. Where would they use the measuring cup of a half a log? Chatzi log mayim l'sota. They would use it to measure the half a log of water for the sota. And chatzi log shemen l'tzot. 30 loaves of matzah that are brought from the karban toda. Okay. Uba log. What would they use the log? The kol menachos, for all menachos. The typical mincha needs an isaron of soles. And with the isaron of solas, it needs a log of oil. Now, afilu mincha shel shishim isaron. Let's say a person donated a mincha of 60 esronos. So then no silah shishim log. So then he has to go accompany it with 60 log of oil. He'll just use the measuring cup of log 60 times.
But if you needed a log and you couldn't find it, and you had the half a log, you couldn't use it twice.
That's what it sounds like. That's what we saw earlier. Rabbi Zev ben Yaakov Omer. Rabbi Zev ben Yaakov says, Afilu mincha shel shishim isaron. Even a mincha of 60 esronos of flour, ein la'ela luga. It only gets 1 log of oil. Shenamar, because the verse says limincha v'log shamen. So isaron solas echad balul b'shamen limincha v'log shamen. Since it says limincha v'log shamen, that means every mincha, no matter how big it is, only gets with it, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, 1 log of oil. Okay. Yeah. So
only one time the log is mentioned in the Torah. Never anywhere else.
Is that so? I didn't know that. Wow.
I'm looking here. I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. All that is some say him.
Aha, nice. Okay.
And the hin was only used once by Moshe Rabbeinu?
The full hin, right.
A full hin.
Right. A full hin is 12 lugin.
And Hashem gave him that vessel?
That's the argument. Did Hashem give him that vessel? Did he give him the smallest vessel and said, add up till you get there?
So we don't know the answer.
It's an argument.
Yeah,
Maybe both are true. All right, so now we said that a hin is 12 lugin. So half a hin is 6 lugin. So shisha, the measurement of 6 lugin, namely of half a hin, is for the bull. When you bring a bull, you bring half a hin of oil with it. Arba, the measure of a third of a hin, namely 4 lugin, is la'ayil, is the amount that you need of oil you need to bring along with a ram. Ushlosha, and the measurement of a quarter of a hin, 3 lugin, is lekeves, is for a sheep. Shlosha umechza, you need 3.5 lugin lemenorah for all the oil used in the menorah. Because chatzi log l'chol ner, you need half a log for each lamp. So 7 times a half equals 3.5, and that's what we needed, 3.5 lugin. Says the Gemara, Yosef Rabbi was sitting with Kakashul, and he had the following problem. Revius lama nimshacha. The quarter of a log, what was it anointed for? Imitzora, if it's anointed and made holy because we're going to need it to get the amount of water for a mitzora. Chutzu, the service of the mitzora happens outside of the camp, so there's no need to have holy water. The nazir, if it's referring to a nazir, lechem nazir, the bread of the nazir, b'shchitas ayil hu dekadish, becomes holy through the consecration, through the slaughtering of the ram. So why is there a need to consecrate the oil? Amalei Rabbi Chia answer, the reason why the Revius log was made holy, because he needed it as part of the process of making the chavitim of the Kohen Gadol. Because you have to divide up what the Kohen Gadol brings into 12 loaves. It would end up being Revius Shem l'chol chalav. Rabbi was the uncle of Rabbi Chia. Rabbi was so happy with Rabbi Chia's answer. Karyaleh, you said about him, the pasuk, about you, the pasuk says, Me eretz merchak ish atzasi. From the distant land is the man of my advice. Here I'm living in Israel. You're living in Bavel. Thank God you came from the far place, from Bavel, and you give me advice. You explain to me what the quarter log has to be holy for. All right, once we discussed the quarter log, let's discuss the other measuring cups. Chatzi log maya mishamish. What would they use the half a log for? So the Mishnah explained it would be used for sota, and it would be used for the carbon toda. Yosef Rabbi v'kakashale. So Rabbi was sitting at the same problem. Chatzi log lama nimshach. Why is there a need to consecrate the measuring cup of a half log? Isota, if we're talking about, because we need to make the waters holy for the sota. The chichulin hu detzricha lekadushi is the waters of the sota, secular waters that you need to make it holy by putting it into a holy vessel. Ma'im kedoshim ksiv, the waters of the sota come from the kior. They have to be holy waters in the very beginning. They're already in a holy vessel. They're in the kior. They're in the sink. Itoda, and if you're going to talk about the lachmei toda, again, lachmei toda b'shchitas toda udakachi. The breads of toda become holy through the slaughtering of the toda animal. So why do we need a measuring cup to make the oil of the toda holy once it goes into the cup? Amalei Reb Shimon bar Rabbi. So now Reb Shimon, who was the son of Rabbi, answered his father. The answer of why we had to have a holy half log, because when we had the oil for the menorah, we had 3.5 log of oil. We had to divide the 3.5 log into logs for each lamp. Each lamp needed a log of oil. It had to be holy. Then it goes into the menorah. We had to have a measuring cup that was holy to make the oil going into it holy. Amar lo. So again, Rabbi was so excited by this answer. He said to him, Ner Yisrael kach haya. He said, you are the light of the Jewish people. You light up the sages. That's exactly the answer. So he was very proud of his son. His son gave him an answer to something he didn't know. It's great. Shepik nachas. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Rabbi. Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi. A new law, talking about menorah now. Ner shekavsa. If they light the menorah, and in the middle of the night, the menorah goes out, a lamp goes out, a flame goes out. So now what are you going to do with the leftovers? The same way the wick is basically not usable anymore because it's been burned through. the oil that's left over is also not usable. You have to take it out and replace it. So Kate said, also, what do you do in the middle of the night? Meitiva. You take out the wick and you take out the oil, the leftover oil. Enosin bashemet, you put in new oil, umatlika, and you relight it. 1 second. Now, how much oil do you put in? Yes, Reb Zikr will come to Reb Zikr was sitting at the following question. Kishunosin bashem, when you have to replace a menorah and you have to put in new oil, Kamida Rishona Kamosha Chasra, do you put in the same amount it was? Do you put in the amount that it's missing? You know, what was left, that's what you put in? Or do you put in the half log, the way you always start off? You start off with a half log, so anytime you put in oil, you should put in maybe a half log. It's obvious that when you put in oil, you put in, like you do initially, a half log. Because if you're going to say you put in based on how much is left, how do we know how much that is? If you're going to say, okay, we're going to have a measuring cup for that, then you don't have 7 measuring cups, you have lots of different measuring cups. You have, I don't know, there's 0.5 of a log, and there's 0.45, 0.4, 0.41. You have all sorts of log measuring cups. That can't be. So therefore, once Rabbi Yirmiyah said this, Rabbi Zvika also liked it. He said, a pasuk was said about you. Hari Alei said about him, the verse says, V'hadarcha tzlach rechav al dvar emes v'anvat tzedek. In other words, the glory and the success of a Torah scholar is that he rides to the truth of Torah based on humility. It's amazing. You're a humble person and you're riding on the true matters. You gave me the answer. Itman Amri also learned. Rabbi love this. Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Abba said the name of Rabbi ultimately. Ner Shakavsa, if the menorah goes out in the middle of the night, Nidashin Hashemen, so that's it for that oil, just as Nidashna Psila, just like that's it for that wick. You don't relight it with that burned wick and that, leftover oil. You clean it all out. Kids, what do you do? Mitivi, you clean it all out. You take out the wick. You take out the oil. And you put in oil as if it's the beginning of the night. You put in oil of half a log. And you light it again. There's no oil. Candles can go out with oil still in them.
Right.
So wind, something happens. It went out.
Wind or oil, okay.
So there's a showman for the lamps all night?
No, there's no showman. I guess the Kohanim walking around, if they see it, they'd go in. Or maybe they would feel it. They could feel that if the light went out, so then the flows of blessing aren't coming down. So they would have to go back in to relight. All right, now what was the menorah like? Was the menorah movable or was the menorah solid? So Ravuna, Rav Yehuda, Rav Sheshes. Ravuna, son of Rav Yehuda, son of Rav Sheshes. Ner Sheva Mikdash, the candles in the menorah, each lamps of the menorah, shall prakim hava. It was of movable pieces. You could bend it this way and that way. Because he holds kiksiv, kikaru miksha, when the Torah says here's a whole kikar of gold, and out of it, beaten out, should make the menorah. A menorah v'nei roseh ksiv. That's the menorah and all of the lamps. So came the Mibayat Tava, since we know you have to clean things out, you'll have to prakim hava, if not for the fact that it would be movable, that you could move it this way and that way, there'd be no way to clean it out. So that's the view of Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehuda. So the Gemara challenges us. Meisvel challenge you. We learned in a brisa. How does the Kohen go and clean out the menorah? Misalkan, he removes the lamps from the menorah. Umanichan ba'ohel, he puts them down in the Beis Hamikdash. Umekanchen b'svug, he cleans them with a sponge, and then he puts them back. And then v'nosem ben shemet, then he puts in them oil, umadlik, and then he lights them. So you see that it's not that they're all one piece and that they can be bent over. You can take off the lamp. You can take off the cups at the top. Answers the Gemara. He'll tell you it's a machlokas. Huta Amar, Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yehuda, will tell you. Ki Tana. I'm following the following Tana. Tanya learned in a braysa. Chacham say lo yemezuzin osa mimekoma. They would not remove the lamp with the oil from its spot because they couldn't because it was all attached. Okay. So 1 second, maybe not. If it says that they wouldn't move it, that does sound that it is detached. It sounds like they wouldn't move it, but that sounds if they wanted to, they could have moved it. Ela Amos, or rather, Rav Sheshes will tell you like this: Chachams tell you, Lo Aisazazim Imkoma. The way to read it is, it did not move from its place. Uman Chacham, what is the Chacham? Rabbi Zev Reichman. Who? That's a good Rabbi Zev Reichman. The time is going to Braysa. Rabbi Zev Reichman. Omer. Rabbi Zev and Rabbi Tzadok explained. There was like a little strip of gold on top of each lamp, on top of each little cup for the menorah. Kishu meitiva, when he wants to clean out the wicks, dochko klape pia, he would push this golden cover towards the head. Kishu no simba shemen, after he puts in the oil, dochako klape rosha, he would push it back towards the head, and he would cover it again. And this argument is dependent on the following Tanaim. The Tanaim in a Braysa menorah, the menorah, v'nei roseha, and the lamps in which the oil is placed. Both menakikar, they all come out of that single block of gold. Emal kochem achtoseh menakikar, the tweezers to take out the wicks, the little shovels to clean things out, the ashes, that doesn't come from the block of gold. So if it all comes from a block of gold, you'd say you can bend it. Rabbi Nechemia says, menorah isabah menakikar. The body of the menorah came from the block of gold. Below nerosel, but the little lamps which got the oil in them, that didn't come from the block of gold. Just like the tweezers and the little shovel, it didn't come, lobos menakikar, that didn't come from the block of gold, and therefore you could remove that lamp. So what's the argument really about? The Haikrot's question of this pasuk, the time of the Braysa, Kikar Zav Tor Yasa Osa, it should be made out of a block of gold. Okay, that's the base of it coming from a block. I know that the lamps also come from the block. That's what the verse says, all of these vessels. Maybe even the shovels and the tweezers. Tamalomar Osa it. That's the view of Rabbi Nechemia. 1 second. There's a contradiction here in the views of Rabbi Nechemia. That's the Gemara. There are two Tanaim arguing what is the view of Rabbi Nechemia. Now, what does Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha say? Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha disagrees. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, menorah ba min hakikar. The menorah comes from the block of gold. But neither the tweezers, nor the shovel, nor even the lamps come from the block. So what do I fulfill with this verse that says all these vessels? Just meaning shayu kalim shel zav, that they have to be made out of gold, but not from this block of gold. Zav, gold, behedjik simba, it says it explicitly. Vasisas neroseh shiva, ve'elas neroseh ve'era lever panem, akolchem achtoseh, zav tahor. So my answer is lo nitzrucha. The reason why I needed to teach you elo lefi neroseh, for the very mouth of it, for the place where the wick is. Where the wick goes, it's going to turn black. And therefore, so I would think Hashem cares about Jewish money, and if we're going to make that of gold and it's going to be turning black from all the ash, you'll have to replace it periodically, so make it out of cheap gold. The pasuk says, no, even that has to be made out of zav tor, out of the best gold. Even where the wick goes has to be made out of the best gold.